Live, my friends. Welcome to this Saturday stream. I hope you're having a great day. I hope we are keeping it strong. I know that it's tough time. I know that it's like right now the news and everything else is just overflowing with trolls. So I want to start today's evening before I even get to you guys, to the chat and everything, because there's something and someone that I must say big thanks over this whole last week and actually the last couple of months. And it's the moderator team. It's the team. It's Ali. It's Raven7 and all of those guys. Without them, I would be completely powerless to do anything because it's kind of been very crazy for me. So huge love, huge thanks from the deepest whatever the remains of my heart after being heartbroken because of the awful invasion to Ukraine. But whatever is left, guys, huge love. Thank you so much for what you're doing. I really appreciate it. No joke. So huge heads up. If you can give a hand to them, guys, in chat, please say, do the Ali, do the @Raven7, just give them a hand. I really appreciate them. And that's what I wanted to start with. And then another person that I want to give a shout out to right before we start is actually Gord. That was, if you remember when we were gathering drones for the guys from the, oh my God, I don't need to mix it up again. So the guys with I believe it's flashback. I don't want to be wrong. The flashback, please be the flashback channel because I mixed it up once, and I don't want to mix it up again. Yes, it was the guys from the flashback channel. So, and Gord was kind enough saying basically that he has a drone and he would like to send it. So, and you guys just came out saying that the drone arrived, that we were able to send it over. So, huge thanks again for supporting Ukraine. And I want to kind of extend that to everyone else that is also sending the money to support Ukraine. Remember, I appreciate the most, guys, if you support Ukraine directly. Under the description of the video, there should be links to the stream. If not, I will add it after. But please support Ukraine. Support Ukraine directly. That's the most important. And if you want to support me, that is also now available with Buy Me and Coffee and whatever. Okay, intro, all of the conditions, self-promotion, sellout, whatever you call it, done. So let me just get the windows out of it. Let me move the chat so I can read you guys, and then we start. JC the Music Man, I am not having a good day because life is far too complicated. That is fair. I'm surrounded by mindless people who believe the propaganda and are lacking logical reasoning. JC, it's a problem that a lot of us have. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people in chat that can very much resonate with you. It's especially tough when it happens to you in your personal space, like when it's the people that you talk to, because we know that overall support for Ukraine and understanding of this war is kind of good. People all around the world, at least in democracies, in the countries that matter, they do understand what's happening in Ukraine. However, it might be extremely tough if this is exactly in your surroundings. And I think we can all emphasize, and unfortunately there is no easy solutions. People believe what they believe. If the last 10 years, so-called like post-truth society that we built has shown anything, is that the facts don't matter. Like, people don't care about the truth. People mostly care about, like, who is yelling louder or who is more confident. That's why con-mans are so good, because how certain things are presented very often is more important than what the things are. Like, are they true, are they not? Because most of the people, they don't give a shit. That's actually one of the points why I don't really bother with the sources on this channel and so on, because this is not an academic research we're doing here, right? We're trying to support Ukraine, so I'm trying to give you information as true as possible as I see it, as to my understanding. Does it mean that I cannot be wrong? No, of course I can be wrong. I've been wrong plenty of times, and I will be wrong again. But it's a tough thing to go through, especially when people around you just completely deny the truth, completely deny the reality, and worst in a situation like this with Ukraine, that they are also supporting that is completely immoral. You know, it's like, because I don't know about you, but I've been brought up saying that like being moral and like, helping the victim, for example, of an assault is always good, and this is something we need to strive for, to have this kind of good society, or to be personally like this. And now we have exact situation, and now all of these gray moralists started appearing and providing examples and explanations why this war is happening, how is our fault, how is the Ukraine's fault, how, like, why did Ukraine wear such a short skirt in the first place, and stuff like that. So it's completely atrocious, but please know that at least here we are there for you. People in chat are here for you, so be strong. And like, guys in chat, support each other. This war and like this channel and a lot of what I'm doing here is mostly to get our mental state right? Because the worst thing that we can do is like to fall into either panic, to forget what the big picture, to forget that Ukraine is actually doing something to win this war, actually. And a lot of what basically my job here is not just giving out the information. I'm not an information channel. There are plenty of good information channels. Yes, I'm giving information that might people see it's the first source, but I'm giving it as a, like, a guy on YouTube is saying. But what I first and foremost want to brought the attention to is that this information also has a bigger picture, and that Ukraine has a plan on how to go forward. And it's kind of very easy to report on Ukraine just because Ukrainian army, Ukrainian military is doing such a good job. So that's kind of the answer, the long answer to a short question, to put it like this. Let me set it up like this. All right. I've missed a lot, guys. Thank you so much. Sven P. Yes. Thank you. We're starting. Yes, support at the u24.gov.ua. I'm actually going to post this link. Send money here. It's safe, it's responsible, and so on. You want to support me? Great. Write me good job in chat. Good job, Georgie. Write a question if you want with an @ and Ukraine matters. That way the question just gets highlighted for me, and then I can read your message, because otherwise I just keep get lost in a lot of messages that's coming around. Hi, Thomas. Yes, I'm fine. Thank you so much for asking. Dobry wieczór, Captain. Welcome, welcome. Kellen Dunn, welcome again. Very nice to see you. Welcome, everyone, guys. Shantriz, Dana, welcome. Diomand, hi, welcome. Can you post the music playlist again? Maybe the last song will have English subtitles. So the song, the last one that played, it doesn't have English subtitles, but you can go into the subtitles, and then you can select Ukrainian because they are available by default. And then you can, once you select Ukrainian, then there is like an auto translate function. And I kind of listened to the song and I read the titles, and overall it translated very, very well. So the auto translate in this case works fine for the last song, and I'm pretty sure someone already linked the playlist. Yes, big thanks to moderators. Like, seriously, I cannot even express just how much. How to get drones to the troops? Well, you can contact us, contact me, contact Ellie. We already asked, like, if it's in Europe, probably I can help out a bit. If it's in US, probably Ellie can help. So just reach out. Like, we're very open. My email is not very hidden, like at least the public one. So very, very open to help Ukrainian army. But we're going to also make another donations for additional Ukrainian troops for sure this month. And I'm actually going to have a whole section when I'm going to talk about the future, probably towards the end. Let's first cover this. Nida Andresa, making borscht and sala. I cured myself right now. Slava Ukraini. Very nice. Heroyam Slava. Thanks for $5. Borscht and sala is the best. When did you first visit Kyiv? I believe it was 2012. Yes. I believe the first visit of Kyiv was in 2012 for me. It was we did a trip with some of the friends to Crimea, actually. And we went with car, and we went kind of through Ukraine, and we visited Kyiv on our way back, but it was a very short visit. Yes, well said, brother. Yes, thank you. Welcome. Pope Francis is here. Wow, Septic Lama, welcome. John Olofsson, very nice to see you, my friend. Mr. Norton, can you give us details on the drone project you did? The Enforcer is trying to do the same thing but needs help. It's not really my project on drones that I did. Basically, the guys from the Flashback channel, they had a little bit of a trouble. They got into essentially like firefight, a little bit of a shelling, and they got essentially their drones got downed. So they really needed to get some money to buy drones for themselves. And so I basically just linked their accounts during the stream, and we gathered money for them during the buy me a coffee. So it's very nice. Kalimdan, seeing the unarmed POW hero get murdered simply for being Ukrainian broke me this week. Yeah, it's been heartbreaking. You know, it's like what's the most heartbreaking for me was that you know it's just one of the thousands of cases that we just didn't know existed. I mean, we already saw the tortures and everything that they did to the prisoners of wars. We know that Russians don't really care. We know that getting back from the Russian captivity is kind of like basically winning a lottery. So I just it was just such a personal tragedy, and as I explained in that video, it's very hard sometimes to relate the numbers. You know, we talked a lot about, you know, how much land they're grabbing, like are they grabbing this or that city, which borders are they defending, where is the battle lines, where, like and stuff like that. But like the whole brutality of war, I think the best is expressed in the personal stories. That's why, for example, filmmakers, they're often like doing the emphasis on maybe one, two people, maybe like a platoon of people to the max, just because we as people, we cannot understand big numbers, groups, and so on. That's why, for example, if someone steals like, you know, like a TV from house, for us, it's a bigger impact than if there is a guy that steals multiple billions of dollars. Like, despite the impact of the guy stealing multiple billions would be a lot better. But because we emphasize with, for example, if someone else describes in details how someone entered the house, then it's just emphasizing just how our brain works. We are emphasizing with stories. That's why seeing that person live, like basically one-to-one, seeing his eyes, seeing his determination and like vigor, it's just mind-blowing. Right. Callus, thank you for the topic. Ukraine matters. Are you doing a great job with maintaining me calm and sanity? Absolutely. I will continue doing this until the end of war. This is how I am taking this war. This is what I'm gonna do, and I'm not gonna stop. Can you guys give me a second? I think I have some issue here. One sec. Sorry for a little bit of technical distraction, guys. Just needed to figure out a bit of things. I think my wife was a little bit. She needed a little bit of help. Let's put it this way. All right. Level 70. Do you think Russia use of multi-million-dollar hypersonic missiles is act of desperation? Absolutely. I mean, testing. Oh, wow. Yes. Now you guys all see why I didn't get into the army. I have essentially a two-story. It's not really a house. It's like a maxi apartment. So, and I have stairs, and once I try to climb the stairs, I instantly getting like out of breath because of my medical stuff. But using of Kinjal missiles is, I think it's definitely testing. The most important thing is like of 6 sent out Kinjal missiles, 2 of them got lost. They just flew somewhere in the fields. So this multi-million-dollar hypersonic missile just randomly lost its target. I mean, okay, that's great. That's great, but it's just another more fancy toy. So it's the continuation. People actually ask me like, "Oh my God, Georgie, is Ukrainian air defense is now hollow? Like they've captured, they've intercepted so few missiles this time. Is it like did Russian figure it out?" Well, in a sense, they did. Basically, they started shooting mostly with missiles that are not interceptable right now by the Ukrainian air defense, like ballistic missiles, S-300s, Kinjals. Those things cannot be intercepted by the Ukrainian air defenses. They are just not available. Ukraine doesn't have that capability. So asking questions is not how many missiles were intercepted. The correct way to put this equation is how many missiles were intercepted of the possible to be intercepted. That is the correct way to kind of think about it. So what you need to do is basically check every missile and see, is this a ballistic missile? If it's a ballistic missile, then it's not interceptable. If it's a cruise missile, then yes. And then when you calculate that, then you get the ratios that's like, oh, it's actually fine. It's the same ratio that was before. Okay. Let's go. I see a lot of questions. Guys, thank you so much for asking. Darren Corrigan, how do you see Ukrainian being able to bring Putin to the negotiations table? I mean, in chains preferably? Preferably in chains? Or at least handcuffs? That would be the best, I think. But we need to understand, like, people right now, they make this, I don't say it's a mistake, but it's an assumption. Is like, oh, but how would you even, like, prosecute the ruler of such a independent and strong state? Well, because he will stop being ruler of the state, and then we can prosecute him. Like, the fact that we have right now no means to prosecute Putin doesn't mean that we shouldn't start opening cases, and doesn't mean that we should essentially not prosecute him. It's a very stupid argument saying it's like, oh, well, if a person is in charge of a country and that country has nukes, therefore we can never prosecute it. No, we should aim to do it. And obviously, like, we cannot get to him now, but at some point Russia will lose. And at that moment, there will be options. There will be options. Snow Chains, I met you there. Okay, where? I don't know. Heinrich Barty, what are your thoughts on protests in Georgia? Could we hope to see this spread to other countries tired of Russian influence, Belarus, Moldova? Not really. Georgia is a very different position. Moldova, maybe. Georgia was a little bit different position. You need to understand that Georgia already had its revolution. Like, Georgia had I believe it's called Revolution of Roses. This is where Saakashvili came to power. And Saakashvili, he has been a very divisive figure because he was very radical in his change. But his ability to do this radical change came at a cost. Basically, he did changes in a country without consulting the proper form, which is, I think it's good, because that's how things should be done. So it's like the same as, like, when Putin prohibits overthrow of government and then people within streets would overthrow Putin, then technically that would be illegal, Technically what they were doing would be breaking the criminal code. But because, like, Putin is a dictator and criminal that completely subjugated the country, morally it's right. And that was about the same as Saakashvili. So he did a lot of very questionable things in a legal sense. But I believe in totally it completely liberated Georgia's image in a public sphere, and I've heard a lot of good things about Georgia ever since, because there was a lot of questions kind of about Sakartvelo before that. So, and after that, the new kind of party were moderates, supposedly, And additionally, this party, the Georgian Dream, or how they call it now, the Russian Dream, is basically a party that belongs to, I believe his name is Ivanishvili, that's the last name, and he's an oligarch, and that oligarch is basically has business in Russia. He's interested in Russia, so he was always kind of on the fence about all of the changes because it's like for oligarchs, corruption is kind of useful. It's useful because he doesn't need to deal with bureaucracy as much. So that kind of was a little bit of a backtracking on the Georgian admirations towards becoming a more European state. But because of the older population in Georgia were like, it's like Russia was always considered okay until the war. And after the war, it became a little bit weird. But after that, basically, a lot of talks, and I haven't followed internal politics in Georgia for a long time because for me, like when Georgian Dream came to power, for me it was like basically okay, they have learned nothing basically. But now I see no, there has been like Ukraine didn't came to Maidan Revolution in 2014 on the first try as well. So I believe Georgia has already had their first and second waves of awakening. So I think that now it's just about will Georgia have the third wave essentially, or the next wave of awakening when they will see that their future is not tied with Russia. Because right now dealing with Russia is buying a ticket to Titanic when it's already sinking. So that's why I think that is there. If we're talking Belarus, I don't think people are there yet. They had essentially the first wave of awakening in 2020, but they still have weird ass dreams about Lukashenko's regime, which are completely devoid from reality. They are not ready to fight for power. And for me, any kind of demonstration, protests, they are not ready to fight for power. It's the same shit as in Russia. People coming out on the streets and just standing there with posters, like complete useless stuff. It's not working, and people don't want to adjust it. At least the liberals, they don't want to adjust their tactics. So it's the same with Belarus. They have good flow. They have like technically right now Lukashenko is basically a usurper because in the elections Belarus have voted for a different president. So democratically speaking, in Belarus they have a legitimate president which is not there. So in Belarus it might happen, but we need to be fair because they failed extremely hard when the Belarus happened and there was momentum, and then the momentum was started to be lost. And instead of transitioning to it, for some reason, Tikhanovska called for boycott of all the activities in Belarus, to which the usual people were like, we're not going to do that. We need to pay our rent or whatnot. And it failed spectacularly. And after that, she felt in a little bit of a limbo of irrelevance. Moldova is an interesting place because Moldova is struggling with kind of the same idea with Georgia, except Moldova is a lot more severe. They have actively pro-Russian politicians that actively want Moldova to be pro-Russian. And Moldova has been even more deprived of the military and enforcement power than Ukraine. It's a country that, to be honest, like there is a 1,500 troops in Transnistria, Russian troops. They're pretty shit. Like they're really bad troops. They cannot do anything against even Ukrainian army, which is not the most modern army. I mean, like even if comparable in size. But even if comparable in size, for example, like 1,500 Ukrainian troops with 1,500 Moldovan troops, they would not be standing a chance. Well, not Moldovan, but Transnistrian troops. They would not stand a chance. But compared to the Moldovan military, it's a complete disarray. It's extreme corruption. They need a lot of support. I think they need closer integration with Romania. And I think that what Sandu should do is, instead of allowing demonstrations, because right now demonstrations in Moldova are mostly pro-Russian, so instead Sandu needs a secret agreement that Romania and or Ukraine will come to essentially secure government in case of potential overthrow of democratically elected government in Moldova. So yes and no. Moldova is a little bit more secure position if they have a deal with Romania. So I hope that answers a little bit. Wow, that took a while. I am concerned with Ukraine's ability to defend against Kinjal missile systems, even with Patriots. Do you share the same concern? No. There's about 100 of those Kinjal systems, and they are barely making them, so they will not deal extensive damage. The point is that they still haven't figured out what they want to do with the missiles. They're still targeting civilian infrastructure and like some of the army targets, but it's not systematic. It's really bad. David Chamberlain, hello from New Zealand. Thanks for keeping us informed. I wish you had better exposure in Russia too. I wish I had better exposure in Russia too. Me in Russia, to be honest, I don't care about Russia. Like it's not my deal. Like Russia needs to get their shit together, right? In my perspective, the situation with Russia should be like this: they go back into their little hole, they hide in there, they figure out if they want democracy or autocracy or what they want, and we're just gonna like once every 5-10 years peek into that box and says like, well, are you democratic yet? No, okay, stay in there. So that's how I want to see Russia essentially. But obviously, it's a my essential dream. Sub-Hero, I'm a natural pessimist. Though feeling good on current AFU situation, including Bakhmut, some of it is because Russia fails, but mostly because of you and confident AFU statements. Trust in AFU, as you say. Yes, absolutely. Armed forces of Ukraine has been shown themselves competent. I really completely dismiss. Like, we need to make sure that I'm making a very specific assumption of all of my things that I say. And my specific assumption is that general staff of Ukraine are not complete idiots. That's it. That's the only kind of assumption that I make underlying everything. And when people start arguing, it's like, oh, but Syrskyi, like, yes, he comes to the front line, but he doesn't actually have a plan. So it's like he actually decided on himself that he wants to kill all of the Ukrainian soldiers in Bakhmut. It's like, are you idiot? It's like, because he's literally saying that's like, oh, that means that the general staff of Ukraine are complete morons. I dismiss that completely. That critique is completely invalid, and it doesn't follow with the experience, with the experiences that we had with the command of the armed forces of Ukraine and with essentially the history of it. Whoever's saying is like, yes, but they did this mistake, they did this mistake, they did this mistake. It's like, show me an army that doesn't do mistakes. Any army. Even peaceful time army. Show me an army that doesn't do mistakes. Any army can do mistakes, especially in a situation like this. It's going to be grand mistakes that will cost hundreds, if not thousands of lives of soldiers. Absolutely. But just saying is like, oh, I don't have a depth of information, but Ukrainian military command did mistakes, therefore I think they're incompetent, therefore whatever they're doing now is a completely doesn't have a plan and it's already a mistake. There we go. I win. There, fuck you. I was like, yeah, bullshit. Carson Larimore, excuse my spelling. How would the collective West respond if the Zaporizhia power plant was critically destroyed by a Russian missile, even if an accidental? Well, I mean, like it's that's the question that everyone is asking. Ukraine is saying it almost every day. They say you need to pressure Russia to get the fuck out of Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, like, because that is what Ukraine is saying, that you cannot just keep playing Russian roulette with it, with excuse me the pun, because that is incredible. So how would West respond? I hope they will start giving out radiation pills early. That's how West should respond if a Zaporizhia power plant would get destroyed by the Russian missiles. Because we put so much trust in the international, apparently, agencies, IAEA, whatever. Dog shit. They are funded by Russians. Russians are there on the board. They have veto powers. They are diluting the talks and so on. What we need to understand is that the world, especially we in the West, we need to find our balls. And we need to find not just our balls and to support Ukraine and whatnot. We need to understand that the Russian influence has been corroded in the internal, in the politics that are really dangerous for us. The danger of nuclear power plant on Zaporizhia being destroyed is fucking real. And the fact is that because Russia is on the board of IAEA, because because European Union doesn't want to sanction the Russian nuclear sector, because we have some kind of phantom pains on the future that might be if we exclude Russia from all of the world. Russia is a threat, a danger, an existential danger for health and safety of the people of European Union and potentially the world. So the fact that we're just taking it so lax and allow these international organizations just to have the time of day and discuss whatever they want, like just by sitting lazily and like just reading about combat mosquitoes and whatnot every day while getting also hundreds and thousands of dollars into their bank accounts, maybe we should consider if we need those kind of international organizations. If an international organization cannot enforce their power when there is an actual nuclear threat coming for the continent of Europe, what the fuck are they doing? Heinz Cup, is your Telegram channel that? I don't have a Telegram channel. If you see someone saying join the Telegram channel, it's a scammer. So if you join the Telegram channel, supposedly it's me, I'm not. There you go. So you just been scammed. I would reconsider scanning your computer for viruses. And if you added your credit card, well, please, I don't have a Telegram channel. Very, very important. A lot of scammers there. I cannot warn you guys against every single scammer. You should be very critical about what you say. If someone just puts my logo, well, his name is not Ukraine Matters, but rather, oh my God, free stuff on this sexy Telegram channel. Yeah, maybe you shouldn't click that. But I'm not here to monitor every single click that you do. But please be aware that scammers are rampant all over the internet. That's the thing that's been happening for the last 30 years since internet was invented. Be very careful. Did you see Prigozhin in front of the TAC monument talking? Do you think he was drunk? I don't think he was drunk. I think he was maybe tired or something. But yeah, I saw that. I mean, he was spouting nonsense about Russia still having 70 million people army. It's hilarious. H. Sarit, how's your wife recovering from her illness? She's doing fine, thank you. Ferengi Outpost, how long do you think it will take for the splinters of Russia to become democratic places after the defeat in the war? I'm not sure that Russia will split, but it might. I think the future of Russia would be ideally split. I do not believe, like, the more time passes, I do not believe in liberal transition, liberal democratic transition of Russia. I believe that Russia will become a nationalistic state, and I would love to that nationalistic state to essentially be a Muscovy and nationalistic republics around Russia. People could say it's like, oh, but that's like unforeseeable circumstances. Was like, it's fine. Like, we've dealt with countries before, like Ukraine got their independence because this is the same argument as Chicken Kiev speech about was it Bush? I believe it was Bush that was talking in Kiev, literally saying is like, yeah, Ukraine shouldn't look for independence. So it's the same thing. It's the same Chicken Kiev argument. Thunder Lightning 35, sir, are you familiar with JDAM? I know what it is, but I haven't been on the receiving end. I know some Russians have been on the receiving end, and they've confirmed that it's effective. Vlad Drak, they threatened from the Geneva, they retreated from the Geneva Convention. They do not respect or abide by it. They should go both ways. They should not benefit from it either. Yes, but the problem is that we're pressuring Ukraine, right? The problem that we're all having is that because Ukraine is dependent on the Western supplies of ammunition, some people think is like, oh, since we can't influence Ukraine, let's pressure Ukraine to do something that we want. And they think it's morally fine. You know, it's like, just because we have some kind of leverage over one of the parties of conflict, and in this case, a victim of the aggression. And we say like, oh, but we don't have a leverage on the aggressor, so let's leverage it against the victim. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. So whoever is saying is like, oh, well, it's like let's enforce Ukraine not to hit targets inside Russia. Why? Why? Why are you making things harder? Why are you? It just doesn't make sense. I've talked about this like hundreds of times. Ferengi Outpost, how long do you think it will take to the splinters? Oh, okay, I already read that. Michael V, are the new information about the truck bomb on the Kerch Bridge? It was a suicide bomber. They want to be very confident for European conflict. It's actually it's so dumb. It's like that. I like We'll find out the full details probably only after the war. But Russians apparently did a research, and it was like some people from like Georgia, so they had like no relations to Ukraine, and yet at the end they still bombed Ukraine because reasons. Hans Eriksson, thank you so much for 5 gifted subs. I appreciate it, and also for gifted subs. I wanna give a shout out to Sub Hero because he did give out some subs right before the start. So big thanks, guys, for support. Really appreciate it. Romeo Francisco, in the news this week, there was a coverage on the death of the Angel of Bakhmut. It seems she died while evacuating wounded throughout the dangerous roads connecting to Chasiv Yar. Yeah, I've heard that as well. So that's very unfortunate. But I mean, how do I put it not to sound like a sprig? Every single person that goes on the front lines is a subject to die. That's the nature of war. That's what makes war bad. You know, it's like, I don't know, do I need to explain that the war is bad? That's the unfortunate part, because good people die because they are so good, because they want to help. So blame Russia, blame Putin, blame Russians. It's only their fault, no one else. Level 70, thanks for 7 Canadian dollars. What would Russia do if NATO said that they were going to send troops to secure the Zaporizhia power plant, whether the Russians like it or not? It's they would start waving their nuclear threat button saying, oh, it's a third world war and so on, because Russian and NATO troops have been clashing before, but and like, for example, closing the skies over Ukraine would be totally fine, but because like NATO troops will not go because the countries will pussy out. There will be NATO countries, either the ones that are selling out to Russia, I'm not going to call names, but I'm pretty sure you can guess, or the countries that just are too cowardly about the Third World War and saying, like, oh no, we cannot oppose Russia directly. Yeah. Awesome HPT, is it only Wagner in the area around Bakhmut now? No. Did the regular Russian army leave? No. Though at some point VDV units were nearby. Yes, they're still there. Wagner are just the ones that are attacking. The other Russian forces are coming in later to secure the objectives. They're helping building defenses, securing some of the flanks and whatnot. Tobias Fail, what would be the result whether the Ukrainian spring offensive would be a successful or fail completely? Well, I don't think it won, but we would be in a stalemate situation. How do you see Ukraine being able to bring Putin to the negotiations table? Well, win first, then let Russia have it, and once they either kill or overthrow Putin or whatnot, if they want to go back to the table of civilized nations, please give out the war criminals, starting with Putin. That's how I see it. I don't expect Ukrainians to go and capture Moscow, if this is what you're implying. Sanctions. More sanctions. Paul Miko. Could China be persuaded to change sides? China could send peacekeepers to Zaporizhia nuclear power plant and try and broker peace deal. China can join the winning side instead. That's actually a possibility, I guess, something that to be discussed. But China, so far, we know that China has a hand in Russia. They really want to keep the vassalage of Russia to be bowed to themselves. So I'm not completely sure that Ukraine winning and getting more favorable conditions is something that China wants, because China wants to destabilize the West. China wants the West to be weak because it goes against because the West is in against their geopolitical interest. Matthias, thanks for €1. Appreciate it. Really appreciate it. Okay, chat jumped for me a lot, so if I missed questions, rewrite it. Bogdan Test Software, MD, please tag. Okay, it's just about tagging. Yes, please tag at Ukraine Matters, and then I will read your question. Len Luigi, do you know how many prisoners were captured in the Izium offensive in September? I never heard some solid data, like a couple of thousand. I like solid data is hard to come by. Is a lot of fog of war, but it's a couple of thousand. But overall, what you need to know is that there is a lot more Ukrainian captives on the Russian side than there is Russian captives on Ukrainian side. So just something that you know. Just because Russians captured a lot of Ukrainians in the early stages of the war. TTCC. I think you mentioned some time ago that you are a programmer. I'm not. What languages do you enjoy working with the most? I'm not a programmer. I write some Python, and that's about it. I am not a programmer. JC the Music Man. Speaking of balls, I heard that two things are visible from space: the Great Wall of China and Zelensky's balls. Yes. I've heard that if you drop Zelensky's balls in a Black Sea, you can cause a tsunami that will destroy Russia. Georgia has some good rugby players. Cheers from California. Nice. Anna, exactly. Mm-hmm. So aren't you a Nigerian prince? Yeah. Roland Schmidt, will NATO and the United States provide fighter planes to Ukraine? At some point, yes. Absolutely. No questions asked. Planes will be delivered to Ukraine. William Parrish, thanks for posting the content before you started live. I'm half Ukrainian, live in the US, and I warmed my heart. Thanks. Wooden Buyers, how much do you think the MiG-29 from Poland and other will help the counteroffensive in the spring? Not as much as we want. So Ukraine, I want to quote both General Hodges and Taras Chmut here. And Taras Chmut was kind of the most vocal about this. He says that the delivery of all Soviet crafts is like a trap. It's dog shit. And it's best as explained by what General Ben Hodges is saying, is that Ukraine needs new capabilities. Ukraine needs capabilities to hit Russia further, to have better radars, to find them earlier, to have better anti-air that is based on the air power, to have basically like more capabilities. And providing more of the older types of jets, because we know it's not going to be like 100 jets or something, right? But providing a little bit more of the older types of jets is just delaying providing the capabilities for Ukraine. So basically, if Ukraine will receive additional 5-10 MiGs 29s, they're not getting new capabilities. They're not increasing their capability list. Like they're not getting new opportunities to execute. They're just getting more of the same. And because it's going to happen, it's going to be just a trap where for additional half a year, Ukraine is not going to get F-16s or whatnot. So unfortunately, not as much as we want. Sub-Hero, considering Prigozhin... Oh, so wait. Sitting and thinking. Do you think Prigozhin is making his videos at near the combat zone? Yes, because it is safer for him than being in Moscow. To be honest, I don't think that's too far from the truth. But we need to understand that Prigozhin right now is a publicity trap. Like he needs to be on the front pages. He needs to be like vocal. He needs to be essentially showing that he's still relevant, because if he becomes irrelevant and gets out of the news cycle, he's as good as that, and he knows that. Sub-Hero, considering Prigozhin in Bakhmut, assuming he's not in front of a green screen, he's not. You think armed forces of Ukraine is targeting him. Today I fantasize about what would happen should they capture him. I mean, yeah, but it's like the same with everything. Like Ukraine is just destroying and targeting whoever they can, for sure. I don't think they're tracking specifically Prigozhin. Bill G. In warfare, most often the other side, which makes both the fewest mistakes and can exploit those of opponent, will win. Yeah, fair enough. Boston Danny, do you think Kadyrov decided to pull his troops out so he was poisoned? I'm not like the Kadyrov was poisoned and or Putin has a sickness is the same conspiracy theory argument. And until he dies of poisoning, I don't believe it. There we go. That's my answer. Kellen Dunn, anyone who wants peace needs to remember Neville Chamberlain, who agreed with Hitler to give up Czechia. Yep. And now, one of the reparations that Russia must pay is give back Kralowitz. Kralowitz should go back to the officially voted. Kralowitz made a referendum, so it's now part of Czechia, and Russia should respect the international borders of Czechia. Do you think Ukraine can find Prigozhin? Yeah, I already said, yes, maybe. What is the price of the Kinjal missile? Like a couple of millions, I believe 10 million, was it? I don't know. I don't know. To be honest, I don't care. A lot. But it really doesn't matter. So. All right. Chat jumped again because I'm so slow. Ioannis Kilioros, what do you think of the Free Russian Legion? Are they much of a thing? I think it's a propaganda thing. I don't think it's a real thing, to be honest. Darren Corrigan, I assume Ukraine will defeat Russia. NATO must be the chickens in front of the monkeys. NATO must kill the chickens in front of the monkeys. I have no idea what that means. Neil Badger, you probably already know this. Reports from Russia suggest that they have already spent 88% of the total annual budget, so hopefully unpaid soldiers will go home. Yes. Well, no. Because, like, I did my last video. Like, if you haven't seen my last video, check out the last video where I talked about the economy, and I fell into the trap of talking about economy on my channel. Like, I'm not referring to any kind of specific sources, so I'm doing my discussion basically just a blog, like I'm talking to you here, just one to one. And it's all nice, but when I start talking about some kind of quantifiable things, that's when people get really pissed. That's like, oh my god, but I have sources that say completely otherwise, and it's like, yeah, okay, now I remember why I don't cite sources. And that's very true, because economics is not a precise science, right? So there is no way to precisely quantify the situation of Russian economy. That's why, for example, I believe it was Professor, let me see if I have Jeffrey Sonnerfield, like he made a very good overview, like about how Russia lies. Like, he didn't say anything new for me, because like I was very clearly aware of the fact that Russia has hidden all of their statistics, that they're not really publishing. It's actually started a lot earlier, because like in 2016 they recalculated the formula how they are calculating their GDP. Like, for example, they are actually counting for their GDP in like non-taxable activities, such as, for example, prostitution and whatnot. It's kind of hilarious. Basically, Russian economy is a big bubble. We know that authoritarian regimes are representing things, misrepresenting their economy a lot. China is doing the same shit. Like, there's been studies that saying that China is overestimating their economy, and which is fair. But what I'm saying is that by falling into this trap about saying that, oh, but Russian economy is doing well, there is like people saying is like, well, how do you know? Like, what are you? It's like, well, and the answer is always the same, guys. Guys, I have direct connection to Cosmos, and Cosmos has direct connection to every single Russian and every single business. And business, it doesn't matter that it's a legal entity, I still connect to it, and I get all the data. That's how I know, because I am that good. So that's the same answer as for everything. But jokes aside, Russian economy has been overestimated the same way as Russian army. Russian economy is very, very fragile now that the oil embargoes has been in place and they are actually working. But they still have a lot of money in the bank. They still have a lot of reserves. These reserves, everyone was estimating at the start of the year, that will last Russia for the next 2-3 years. But with the current tempo of their budget deficit completely skyrocketing, it might be done even before the end of this year, which will just lead the Russian economy to adapt and essentially reconfigure itself. So we will see less spending done by the government, and potentially, because I'm pretty sure that the army will still get the same money that it was promised. So, and Russia most probably will be forced to start printing money. But then again, like, some people argue, yeah, but like, if Russia had for a long time, saved a lot of money, then factually it's technically like, if it gets money from the reserves, that it's pretty much the same as printing money, because that money was supposed to be used in a case when Russia needed to start investing in something, when they're like, it's like after recession. One of the schools of thoughts says that when you're after recession, or like nearly at the end of recession, then you should start investing really heavily to boost people confidence and get people the money that they need to start business activity, so that it basically recovers faster. And it's proven itself to work. So that was the purpose of that fund. But if you just like are dropping into more and more into recession, and then you start throwing more money, then it's basically throwing good money at, well, neutral money, throwing at the bad time, at the bad things. So it might just essentially escalate in even more inflation. I hope that wasn't too complex for me talking. I really don't want my channel to be complex or oversaturated with economic theory or whatnot. That's not the point of it. Bogdan Test Software, can we impact the Russian gold trade? We should. We can, but we don't want to. Yeah, we can. Like, not even gold trade, but for example, nickel. They have a lot of nickel and some of the other like metals. So that's a thing that we can sanction for sure. Nida Adressa. Apparently Zelensky wasn't popular before the war. Yes, he wasn't. Is that true? Yes. Yes, he wasn't very popular. Will he remain popular after the war, you think? Yeah, I think. Also, borscht cooking is going well. Nice. Which recipe are you using? Because borscht is not really a dish. You know that, right? Borscht is not really one single dish. It's more of like a style of soup. So it's more like a style of types of soups that you make. So what's your recipe? Can you share? That would be very nice. Hjalmar, I doubt China is really an ally of Russia. Yes, China is not an ally of Russia. China just wants Russia to be essentially their vassal. So they are not friendly friends with Russia. They will show it on camera, but they are not friends for sure. Derek, the brave soldier that got shot after surrendering, do you think the Russians gave him the last cigarette so they could make snuff him? No, I think it was how do you say, like a knee-jerk reaction, because I think what they were doing essentially is their not physical, but psychological torture. One of the things that they do is they would take, for example, they want like the guy to tell him something, and they would take the guy into the forest alone under the like holding him on the gunpoint, and then give him a shovel and says like dig your own grave, and this was exactly what was happening. So I think he was basically digging his own grave, and then they gave him like essentially a cigarette and so on. And then basically when they filmed him and so on, and then when they started filming him, he says like Slava Ukraini, to which there's like what the fuck, and then they shot him. So I think it was a knee-jerk reaction in this kind of situation. But at least this is how I see it. I don't know the details. It's just me guessing, so I'm speaking out of my ass. Bill G, which do you figure will happen first? The Russian army revolts, security forces take Putin down. I think Russian army might revolt. Like they already are very, 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 very close to that. I will cover it just a little bit later. I want to talk about this, but just a little bit later. QR, thanks for 1,000 Czech coronas. Hello, Georgie. Here are some Czech money for you. Thanks. I actually have still some Czech money because in the summer we were in Brno. Please buy yourself a few good Czech Pilsners and then spend the rest of it on something in support of Ukraine cause. Yes, I will do. I actually have, soon you will have a big surprise, and I'm hoping it will be nice. So like to show that your money is not going to waste, at least on my side. Like, I donate to Ukrainian cause, but like I don't donate on anything, fancy. I basically just go into the same foundations that you guys are going, and I just send money to the foundations. Like I'm not doing any kind of specific, buying in of drones or anything. That's why people says like, oh, but like, where is your like proof that you're doing something? Is like, yeah, whatever. So I started this channel basically to have some money to donate to Ukraine, and this is what it's doing. So I'm not doing anything too fancy. Yes, but I was to Czechia. I was to Brno. I tried some of the Brno bitter. It was very nice. I think like I was in the pub that was called was it Pivo i Syn, Pivo and Sin, or something like this. It was hilarious. Like some completely local like beer pub. Like it's not even a pub because there's literally like just a couple of tables, and the guys are standing like near the a small counter that they have just beer poured, and then they have this glass washer, so they just take some of the old glasses, they just wash them like this 1 2 and just get you beer. It's perfect. It was excellent time. So I really enjoyed my trip to Brno. It was most excellent. It was one of the few trips that I did over the last couple of years. For me, trips didn't go that easy. Mostly it was like either Corona first. By the way, did you remember that we still had Corona a couple of years ago? We almost forgot it. And now the war. Septic Lama, do you know if one needs education in order to help with demining? I would like to head down to Ukraine in order to help after the war. I do not know, but I have seen videos of people teaching Ukrainians how to demine. So potentially, I think there will be courses and education for it. So if it's something that you want to do after the war, I am well aware that it is possible. So after the war, I will go to Ukraine as well, and I will essentially, if you will need to find something and you will still be following me, just ask. I will ask around. Jonas BL3, what about giving Ukraine a few submarines? Able to sneak on it? It's like, yeah, maybe. Ah, Ukraine is having big troubles with the Navy right now, so I wouldn't think that submarines can really. I don't think so. I think the money is better spent on the air power or ground power. Lorna Morgan, maybe Austria could be the neutral peacekeepers or Switzerland at nuclear power plant. Yeah, that's a possibility. That's a possibility. David Gormley, in light of Russian problem, don't you think that once the counterattack with modern Western weapons begins, that Russia will collapse and it will be en route to Ukraine? We'll talk about it in a second. It's the same kind of discussion about the. I'm actually going to mark this question so I also discuss. So. And how do I put it? Russian troops run. Okay. I will talk about it in just a second. Okay. Julian Noor, the Norwegian defense minister at the meeting with Zelensky offered him to send Ukraine pilots to come to Norway and practice missions. Do you mean Ukraine will get F-16s? Yeah. I mean, Ukraine will get Air Force. Like, don't get me wrong. It's like completely clear that Ukraine will get everything. It's a question of time. And now we Western powers, we still have like this flip-flop, a little bit of a dance like that's been doing for pretty much every weapons ever since the start of the war. So Ukraine will get everything. Does Ukraine have medicaps, helicopters, evacuation for wounded troops? Yes, or is it still dangerous in airspace due to rocket and drones attacks? Mostly, medivacs are not really a thing. It's very, very risky. The airspace is very contested. How much left of the Wagner group now? Some, but there are significant complaints about how Wagnerites are being killed. Because because the war correspondents, they are going to the front lines and they are acknowledging that, well, oh, okay. So they're acknowledging that right now the elite of Wagner forces are being killed off in Bakhmut. And they're saying that after these forces are, well, killed, that's it. Like, there is no more attacking force in Russia. They're saying that Mobics will not be able to do it. And we already saw that they can't. Mobics are not capable of the assault. They are not good enough. So the only kind of combat attacking force that Russia is having is the Wagnerites, pretty much, and some of the elite troops. And they're right now being destroyed at Bakhmut. So that's pretty much would end any kind of aggression from Russia. Benny Verhoeven, do you think it is true that Ukraine has 3 pilots ready for each of the J's to fly? Yes, absolutely. Why not? Why is it not true? I don't understand. Yeah, it's something that I heard literally one of the most trusted analysts say in Ukraine. So, yeah, I trust it completely. Mr. Attitude, it appears to me that Ukraine is focusing on Russian artillery. Why is Kellen Dunn's messages? Why is Kellen Dunn's messages being deleted by Raven 7? I don't know. Please don't delete Kellen Dunn's messages. She's nice, or he is nice. I'm sorry. I forgot to ask. Are you? It's hard to know. Is Kellen male name or a female name? I don't know. Anyway, tough spot. Let me get back to the questions about Ukraine. So please don't delete Kellen Dunn's messages. It appears to me Ukraine is focusing on Russian artillery last few weeks. Can you give me your thought? I don't think it's just the last few weeks. What I know is that Ukraine has gotten some of the drones that I believe are the finally we see the Switchblade 600s, which are like essentially Javelin missiles that are also drones that can fly for over 40 kilometers. And these drones are now wreaking havoc on the backlines of the Russians. The earlier versions of Switchblade 300s have proven themselves to be nearly useless. They're extremely weak. They are very bad at navigating. Their damaging potential is also very weak, like almost weaker than grenade. So they have shown themselves to be extremely useless, to be honest. And they're also very prominent to the electronic warfare of the Russians. So Switchblade 300s, fine, okay, but Switchblade 600s now apparently entered the playing field, so Ukraine are hunting for some of the backlines of the Russians, which is really great. Bill G, I found the insights wonderful, as with Perun, that which normally finds the US safe for the enforcement slander filing to... Okay, sure. I fear Trump-Putin tag team. Yeah, that would be like Trump would be a big problem to Ukraine. Like I think because the elections is coming up, but I have hope for the people of US. Dutch Reb, thanks for $10. How much does the general population of the LPK DPK? I would imagine you're meaning the Russian regions of Luhansk and Donetsk, because we don't have amnesia compared to the Russian government, where they apparently annexed those regions. So there is no more LPK DPK. How much does the general population of the LPK DPK supports independence? There is no population that supports independence. It's all built by Russia, by Russian money, by Russian weapons. There is no conflict in between. It was just a region of Ukraine. That's it. That's it. That's like nothing there. It's like there was so like it's the same region that's, for example, Kharkiv. And now Kharkiv is fighting for Ukraine. How is that possible? Oh, blows my mind. There is no issue. There was no issue with Russian language, Russian culture on the Luhansk region. It's all made up by Russia. It's all propaganda talking. David Gormy, thanks for everything. Thank you, my friend. Thanks for $20. Really appreciate it. Question it what will happen if they run out of reserves money. Station 240. They will repurpose the money that they have now. So they will start cutting the spending. Well, I mean, there's only two things you can do in economy. Like economy is very simple. You either increase the revenue you get, or you decrease the spending. So to get essentially more balance, so you either get more money or spend less. That's it. That's as simple as that. So that's what they can do. They will be cutting the money. So usually the best option is to do both. So they will be cutting the money they spend on supporting, like, I don't know, pensions, bank funds, maybe activities. Maybe to the nuclear agency, they will stop paying money. And then they will start reusing that money to pay more to the military. And additionally, they will gain more money, for example, by printing. That would help. Like getting money is nice for printing. Some people say like, oh, they can just start printing. That's gonna help. Yeah, sure. Have you heard of the Flex-Head missile being developed by the US to take down hypersonic missiles? Yes, I've heard, but I'm not a weapons expert. I'm not a weapons nerd. To be honest, I never thought I would cover war at all. It's way out of my sphere of interest, at least over a year ago. I'm not a, how do you say, like a gun nerd, like weapons nerd, or person that really into this war stuff. All right. Dumb Trump 2. Is Putin the legitimate son of a Russian traitor, double agent Psy called Popov? Facial similarities are striking. Potentially, which of the Putins are you talking about? Bill G. China has no allies, just subjects and enemies in their eyes. Yes, exactly. Like Bill G is spot on. Oh my god, I'm gonna butcher this one. Taisteluka. Oh my god. Taistelukalkunna. Enemy of my enemy is my enemy's enemy. Yes, I don't know. What? Sure. Sure. I maybe not completely agree and disagree with the statement. Septiclama, do you know anything about the mining? Oh, okay. Did I not read it? Yeah, I read it. Okay. How afraid should Ukraine? Let's get additional 10 minutes and then I will go into talking about the Russian forces. Don Donovan, how afraid should Ukraine be of Steven Seagal's next movie? I would think terrified. It's gonna expose everything. Everything. Darren Young, do you think that Ukraine can target the Russian subs and ships at their ports and destroy and damage them? Yeah, I think drones can do that. But Russia has increased their drone defense, so. Tosun Abe, should we worry about Putin declaring Russian companies to be nationalized unless they contribute their share of production to support the war? Can they mobilize the industry? They already are trying to mobilize the industry. And if they start nationalizing companies, well, good for them. What are they going to do? They take the companies from oligarchs? Like, because there is little to no private business, like at least what matters in Russia. It's all belonging to oligarchs. So what you're saying is essentially, oh, but what about Putin taking stuff from oligarchs? Wouldn't that be great? I wonder what's going to happen. But yeah, it wouldn't be good for Putin to start taking shit from oligarchs. It's not healthy. Especially once you build your whole country basically on giving shit to oligarchs and then saying, okay, now I'm going to take it away. It's like, yeah. The truth teller regarding economy, Rosatom will lose 35% of European market share to Westinghouse from US. So Russia will also be affected in their nuclear industry. Nice. Will be nice to check this. Yeah, it's interesting. Let me save your message. I will look it up after the stream. That's a very interesting thing. I need to dig it into. Thanks for pointing me out. Raven Salmon, sorry, was my mistake. Oh, no worries, no worries. I was just surprised that like I missed something and so on. So Kellen Dunn, sorry for and yeah, whatever. QR, you are spot on about Brno. Local pop scene is really amazing. Yes, yes. Kellen Dunn, anyone who supports Ukraine must vote for Biden 2024. Is that simple? Yep. Agreed completely. I don't agree with Biden with a lot of things. I think he's too soft. But right now we have a challenge to global world order, and as much as I mean, like, I cannot do anything about local politics. Like, I'm a guy from Eastern Europe that is saying what I think. So yeah, it's not really a big deal. All right, fine. 5 minutes more. My guess is that Ukraine originally planned to pull out of Bakhmut, but realized Russia is sending its elite troops, so it's worth to stay and kill them all now. Potentially, yeah. Potentially, Kalendan. I think you might be right. I mean, the more I kind of see it, the more I see that there is like two major reasons. First one, yes. Basically, right now, Ukraine has the chance to essentially destroy the only actually threatening power of the Russian offensive. Second, they preserve the battlefield setup, the battlefield essentially geometry and the battlefield positioning for their offensive. Because right now Russia is funneling enormous resources into the Bakhmut area. So that means they're not preparing, they're not stockpiling resources for the defensive operations. So if Ukraine can keep up the Bakhmut defense, and for example, until the May, keep up that offensive action around Bakhmut, that would be amazing, because at that moment, Russia will meet Ukrainian offense with little or no resources, and their major elite troops not rested and being depleted of manpower. That would be an amazing opportunity. So there are pros and cons. And again, I'm just guessing here. I don't have the information or the plans on the table from the Ukrainian side, and I don't have the understanding of what's the force distribution. Andrew Green, there is continuing talk about nuclear weapons by Russia, but their record, wait, it's like, okay. But their record makes the use of chemical weapons are more likely. Is this a red line for NATO? There is no combat level chemical weapons that are on list of Russian army. So far, Russia is using only the equipment that they have on their military, except for some of the weird concepts that they are doing with their equipment. They have not been using any kind of equipment that would be outside. Moreover, their forces are not trained on how to carry, execute, develop this equipment, and what will it do. Because chemical warfare is also a specific type of warfare. Your troops that are using this chemical needs to be aware that it's being used. They need to know how to fight it and whatnot. We've seen some here and there, like some kind of local application, but it might be like, just people mixing up some certain things in a backyard, essentially. So Russia does not have large warfare based around chemical warfare. So whatever chemical weapons we're talking is not something that Russia have been using before or knows how to use. Does it mean that it will not use? Probably not. Like, there is still a slight possibility, but why and how, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. Tosun Abbey, does Zaporizhia nuclear power plant produce energy? Yes. And does it give that energy to Ukraine-controlled areas? Yes. What is the current energy situation? How much of the bombed infrastructure is restored? I mean, it's alternating because Russia continues targeting, but if anything to go by is that Kyiv has been having energy for the past week and more. Other cities in Ukraine has been having energy as well. So the shutouts, like the fanning blackouts, they were going a little bit down. So Ukraine was getting through this. Right now they got a hit again, but overall Ukraine is keeping up and they have a lot more resource. And also, it's not winter anymore. The temperature is rising, so it's not as critical anymore. Will Ukraine get Iron Dome from Israel? I've read analysts specifically on talking about the Iron Dome, and the point is Iron Dome is against a very specific types of missiles. It is made to essentially counter like homemade missiles, like backyard-made missiles that are basically like a pipe with some of the projectiles attached to it, and it flies in a very simplistic way, essentially, compared to a lot of the more technologically advanced stuff. So Iron Dome might not be that relevant for the threats that Ukraine is facing. A lot of the threats like these, Ukraine is already able to challenge and effectively combat. So Ukraine has, for example, problems with ballistic missiles, but Iron Dome does not really help with that. So the necessity of Iron Dome besides the PR campaign is questionable. Let's put it this way. We are 1,800 people right now watching, guys. 1,817 to be precise. I want to say big thanks for you to be here in the stream. If I haven't answered your question right now, just wait up a little bit. We're going to come back to the question section. But right now, I'm going to talk to you a little bit. And your job right now is to go click the like button. Go click the subscribe button if you still haven't yet. What are you doing with your life? Subscribe to me. I'm the best. And then you also need to share this link to this stream into your social medias. I would appreciate it because that's how essentially YouTube algorithm works. If interactions are happening with the video while the stream is going on, then YouTube thinks this is a good stream, therefore it's worth sharing. It's as dumb as that, so I'm sorry that I need to repeat it. But I love you all, guys, and thank you so much for how much you're doing. Let's talk about Russian military, because we have been seeing a lot of interesting stuff happen in the last couple of days. We obviously heard and seen mobilized troops essentially complaining, saying that, well, we don't really want to fight. We don't really want to, we don't really want to participate in these fights. So we really want to kind of be in territorial defense. So essentially like the second or third or fifth or seventh line of defense. This is what was promised to us. So we want to go back and like just defend the villages. We don't want to go in suicidal attacks to Ukraine. And this is fine because like they can complain as much as they want. They will still be sent and they will need to obey the orders just because the Russian army, they don't care. Like for them, this is just dead men talking. It's just meat. But I think they started to be onto something, Because recently we've been hearing that there are units that are complaining to the point of saying is like, okay, we want to go back, but we also are ready to take up arms if you will try to send us there. That is a completely different talking point. Moreover, there was a second thing that they've discussed, and it's the notion of you would rather, like, I would rather go to jail than you would send me towards Ukraine. And that's a big change, because I was looking for someone to say that phrase, because that is a fundamental change in the perception of the war. It is a change that basically describes that getting to the war is more terrifying than the Russian state. And that is very important. Right now, it's been basically just a one case that got on camera. So we can say maybe there's been additional couple tens of cases that just didn't get on camera. But the idea is floating in the air. So we see that Russian tactics are starting to get to the Russians. They are starting to think that whatever they have been doing is not just not working, that the mobilized army that they got from their training camps and they got onto the field is really weak. And the morale problems that we've been talking about, they were building and building and building and building. And these guys, they have been seeing as like, oh my God, the whole line of tanks that we just sent towards that direction just got slaughtered. Right now, the only thing like that a lot of like analysts that are hearing is like a lot of things that what's holding the Russian morale still a little bit is that they are winning, right? Kharkiv offensive was really damaging for the Russian morale. It already was actually very, very devastating. Kherson, not so much. That was a little bit. If and when Ukraine succeeds during their spring campaign and they will cut the population, not the population, but the land corridor in half, and they will effectively start the siege of Crimea, and especially when the Kerch Bridge will get destroyed, at that moment, I am completely certain, almost like completely certain, and you don't have to quote because I might be wrong. I always might be wrong, but this is how I feel. Like, take it as or leave it. But I feel that this will start being devastated to the point where demobilized will be like, what are we even doing? Why are we even dying? Because it's already is like a question is like, I don't want to go forward because I don't have any resemblance. What am I dying for? Why do I need to go to Vuhledar? Why do I need to fight for it? So it is a non-zero chance that after Ukraine succeeds this, after it will essentially start sieging Crimea, and after the Kerch Bridge will get destroyed, that the Russian troops will not start rioting. They will not start essentially saying, well, fuck this, I'm going back to Russia. This is not Russia anyway. What, I just need to wait here and die until Ukrainians come? Now, obviously, this is just a scenario. This is just me thinking, but it's one of the possibilities. What we need to see is that Ukrainians are still on their land. They are fighting and they know for what they're fighting, because war, especially on this scale, especially long war, is literally the challenge of wills. It is one will against the other. It's the will of attacker and it's a will of a defender. And the will of defender, especially if we have some kind of a stalemate situation, if it's strong enough and it can overweight the will of an attacker, of the ones that's believing in their casus belli, that can break the whole thing. Because Russia does not have the power it needs to essentially get through Ukrainian army. It would be like a big slog. It would be, or like best case, like a stalemate situation that Russians would achieve. But almost no forces attacking wants to fight for stalemate. They want to fight for victory. And the longer that this goes, the more problematic the situation will come for Russians. Especially because we know that Ukrainians will not stop. We know that Ukrainians in the coming, at least years until Trump, in coming, 2 years? No, 1.5 years, Ukraine will continue receiving whatever it needs, and it's going to be increasing and increasing and increasing. So the capabilities of Ukraine increase, and there's more and more and more Russians will be dying. So what I'm saying is, whatever Mobix or whatever Russia sends, there is a significant chance that the morale of already cracking Russian military can break. So that's just something to be aware of, especially if the Wagnerites are getting eliminated. So we'll follow the videos. We should not take the Mobix when they're talking for granted. This is not indicative for anything. They can tell whatever because they're all asking Putin. What we need to look out for is the indicative sayings, saying that either it is we will take up arms against you, or rather arrest me now, then I will go and attack Ukrainian positions. That is extremely important. All right, that was about the Russian troops. Now, let's talk Ukrainian troops. And this is going to be kind of painful because this is part of the something that I read about the analysts when they're reporting. I saw it on Twitter and so on. And basically, there are Ukrainian troops that are expressing complaints about the situation that is on the ground. And with all my major respect, with all my love and support for all of the frontline Ukrainian troops, because that's where the heroes are. Those are the people that are putting their lives on the line and going in the front line. But what is happening is that people read somewhere on Twitter or somewhere else the situation where Ukrainians are saying is like, oh my God, like the situation in Bakhmut is so bad. I don't think I think our command wants to kill us all or something like this. And then people take that and then take it for granted. They take it as this is a fact without adding the necessary, with my limited information and from my perspective, I think that things are, and then you put essentially the quote of the person from the ground. What we need to understand that people on the ground, like people that are actually fighting, they are being in inhumane conditions for months. They have been sleeping in the dirt. They've been deprived of comfort. They've been deprived of good food, sleep. Every day, the comrades and friends that they fight with, like yesterday, they were telling jokes to each other, and then today, his friend died, and then the next day, another one got shot, and then another one got wounded. So, and that is happening again and again and again. It is a enormous emotional strain. It's completely inhumane conditions to be in, and that does not boost large-scale analytical thinking, like global thinking about what's the big strategic picture, what's the big strategic plan. For a person on the ground, it does not matter if Ukraine will or will not get F-16s like in couple of months. It does not matter if the big offensive is being planned. Like, yes, they want to believe it, but they like the missiles are like and shells are flying at them right now. So we should be very, very careful to when people are saying, okay, right now we are being shot at, therefore, like for example, our command is incompetent and therefore the situation is bad. Now, can it be that command is incompetent? Yes. There has been multiple cases that, for example, Ukrainian command has been making mistakes. Like this is openly known. There's not a secret. And again, something we discussed before, there is no military in the world that doesn't make mistakes. The only problem is that if those mistakes are made in a peacetime, it's just an unfortunate thing. Whereas in a warfare, during an active big-scale war, that would mean probably hundreds and thousands of lives lost, which is completely irredeemable. But I want to advise every single one of you that is watching this channel, all of the 1943 people here, that we need to be very much aware of the perspective and put ourselves essentially in the shoes of who is reporting on what. This is especially true for some of the journalists. Like, I'm pretty sure you've heard of Butusov. He's a very, very, very pro Ukrainian troops kind of guy. So he gets a lot of his previews and information right from the front lines. But what I'm saying is, when you look just at the front lines in a situation that there is, sometimes the big picture disappears. So, with all respect, support the Ukrainian army, support the Ukrainian forces, but keep in mind that Ukraine has a bigger picture and they are also strategically winning this war, despite how it might look on the ground in Bakhmut. John Zedrin, thanks for your work and a little coffee donation from Sweden. Thanks, appreciate it. Inkboy, and let's go back to the questions. Thank you so much, guys, for letting me talk this out. Inkboy, how do you feel about Latvia sending unsold cars after confiscating them from drunk drivers? Is it worth driving under influence in Latvia? I don't think it is worth driving under influence anywhere. I think driving under influence is one of the worst banes on humankind that we have, unfortunately. Like, it's a real problem in Latvia. It's a huge problem in Latvia. And I think confiscating cars and sending them to Ukraine is the best thing that could have ever happened. Because the unfortunate truth is, if you just take away someone else's license in Latvia, they will just drive without license. They don't give a shit. Then it would drive drunk and without license. What do you do then? Like, so, and people don't care because like they get a little bit drunk and they don't care. Like, it doesn't matter. Drive. Derek, we had a saying in the Marines: if a Marine isn't complaining, he's not happy. Wow, nice. Geosustainable. I hope the armed forces of Ukraine prepare for chemical attack. What? We just discussed chemical attacks. Russia has no chemical attacks, so, and like, there is no, like, chemical is not a thing, right? You know, it's like it's like saying, it's like, oh, like, have you studied the, I don't know, it's like, it's a better, I don't have an example, but basically chemical is a lot of different elements. We need to understand that, for example, water can kill person. Like, water can kill you. Like, if you just drink too much, you just burst. Like, you know, it's all about the levels and the dosage. So chemical attacks can be something completely neutral just in a big dose. So it's can vary wildly about what you need to do. Is this a liquid chemical attack? Is this a gas attack? Is this a toxic attack? Is this food poisoning? Is this water poisoning? It's like, it's 1001. Like, you cannot just prepare for a chemical attack. You need to know what you're preparing for. And as I said, Russia has no chemicals for use in combat warfare. They do not have it. The only chemical they have are chemical forces, but these chemical forces are essentially the people that are dealing with fire systems for the most part, like fire troopers. So they are fighting, for example, what is it called? Not hydrogen bombs, but oh my god, I forgot, thermobaric weapons. Those are the chemical troops in Russia because they technically are dealing with chemical compounds and fire. You seen Solovyov? Yes, I've seen him. He's not a very nice guy. William Parrish, question: if Prigozhin dies, will Wagner die? Like cutting off Snake's head, will the organization continues? They have multiple different mercenary companies, but Wagner Group definitely is built around the head of it as an authority of Prigozhin. So it would be definitely a significant blow to the whole thing that Prigozhin has set up. It's definitely going to be a huge setback. Novichok is not a oh my god. Novichok is not a combat drug. So to Novichok to be effective, it needs to be delivered to essentially the skin of the person. So for example, with Navalny, they got Novichok because they put it into his underwear. Like, there is no way that this combat delivered. Like, I don't imagine Russians going and smearing Ukrainian underwear to get Novichok to be in contact for a longer time with Ukrainian bodies. White phosphorus is also very toxic. Ukraine is not using Russia is not using white phosphorus. Russia has never used white phosphorus. White phosphorus is not part of the Russian what is it? Military tactics, and it's not used as an attacking agent. There we go. I remembered. Yes, okay. I don't see any more questions tagging me. Remember, if you write question and you write at Ukraine Matters, then I have the question highlighted, and then I know that the question is addressed to me rather than you just talking in chat. So please write an at Ukraine Matters if you want to ask question. That is extremely necessary. We are 1900s, and I want to say thanks for everyone here. That is uh, people that came to me here from either watching Dennis's stream or not stream but channel, either watching Starsky's channel, people that watched Vlad Vexler's channel, or people that came here and being part of the Leaf Spring army. I really appreciate it. I know that last couple of days, last couple of times, I did an unfortunate thing that I was streaming at the same time as those other guys. So I just want to say big thanks for you to join today. Really appreciate it, and it's really nice to have you all here. Please, please support Ukraine, and we will definitely win. People have asked me, by the way, like a question that I have written down is, how do I feel about trolls? Because trolls are prevalent, and especially the last week, why I, for example, started this stream with saying big thanks to moderators is because trolls have been completely rampant. They've been everywhere because Russia is winning, so they are like, it's everywhere. And my reaction to trolls is I'm mostly bored, to be honest, because all of the talking points of the trolls can be boiled down to maybe 5 to 10 general themes. And every time I read it, and like sometimes they write like very short, those are pretty much the funny ones. They would usually write like some short nonsense, like, oh, when you will stop lying or some shit like that. That's actually kind of hilarious. So I kind of like it. But then there is like longer ones that would like post like a big text wall of some bullshit. And most of the time it's like 5 to 10 themes that they're all. So for me, I'm just like, it's snoozing me. Like they're just boring. So I don't feel anything about the trolls arguments. I don't react to it too much. So for me, it's like, okay, whatever. So it's that's like this. And another thing that I want to mention is that interesting. Yeah. Yeah. How do I put it here? Let me see. Maybe I'll open. Maybe I'll open it here. Give me a second, guys. Let me open. I'll answer one of the questions. Favorite drink? Ooh, water. I don't know. I really like water, but I guess that what I'm asking probably. Okay, if I take soft drinks, in soft drinks, I would go for. There is a like a water that they have in Ukraine. It's called Morshinska. It's like a mineral water, and they have the version which is like semi sparkle, semi sprinkles, whatever. So and that one is amazing because I love it so much. I think they're adding either cocaine in it or something like this, just because I love it so much. It's amazing. It's called in Ukrainian slaba gazovana. So and it's amazing. I love it so much. So that's my favorite. If alcoholic, to be honest, I'm not a big drinker anymore. Since some time ago, I dropped out of favor for any kind of alcoholic beverages. So I still drink. My previous one was rum, so I would go for rum. But right now, it's not really a thing. So let me post this to you. Let me add this while I was trying to talk. Let's say window capture. There we go. And yes, there we go. I'll crop it down here. So this is the best comment. That's the best one. So we were apparently, guys. So I am an American that is putting a fake, I would note, Eastern European accent. And I actually spent a very significant amount of time around American English speakers. And apparently, yeah, I use some kind of phrases that only the American English speaker would be using, which is hilarious because I've never been to US. I've never been to US, like no joke. And as for the Eastern European part, ask some of your Ukrainian or Russian friends to translate it. I will do a little bit of a monologue here, and maybe they can explain. So I will try to say a couple of words in Russian. Потому что многие спрашивают, умею ли я разговаривать на русском, либо я не умею разговаривать на русском, читаю ли я по-русски, понимаю ли я по-русски. И я просто хотел сказать, что я знаю все про Россию, я читал русский еще до того, как это стало мейнстримом. Я видел все ваши эти политические шоу, где вы говорили о том, какие латыши все лобатые, какие они все ужасные, какие они все нацисты, и как их нужно всех захватить и Балтику поработить. Я за всем этим вашим говном следил уже с самого начала. Так что возьмите-ка все, что вы хотите сказать про латышей и что вы говорили все эти годы. Я все это читал, и я все это знаю. И поэтому я очень надеюсь, что Украина выиграет уже очень скоро. Слава Украине! Yes, so just to put off some of the questions with regards to whether or not I am Eastern European or not, just to kind of take that discussion off the table. So American, yeah. Da, comrade. Yes. I am actually a secret spy. I'm secret spy, and I have direct power. Remember, I said direct power to Cosmos. It's actually a secret spy network. Okay, getting back to your questions, because I devolved. Sorry, I wanted to give you some time to write some of the questions. Derek. Jeffrey Sonnenfeld, why are the World Economic Organizations reporting to fake economic data as such as fact? Because they don't have anything better to do. Because they like that's not what they are, right? Because it's not the point of the World Bank to make sure that data is true. They're just reporting on it, right? So whatever the Russian officials are giving the data, that's what World Bank is reporting. It's not the job of World Bank to verify. The fact that there are analysts that are, well, as Jeffrey Sonnenfeld said, that there are analysts in the World Bank that are posting reports on it, and most of them are Russians, well then, I mean, Russians posting that Russian economy doing good? Ooh, how did this happen? So that's it. That's very simple. That's very, very simple. What's the motivation to go to Wagner? Money. Christopher Krohn. A better payment? Yes. Ideology? No, not really. Mark Elcock, do you think when Ukraine wins, the Russians propagandists will face trial? Yes. Inboy, how impressed are you with that Ukraine still holds Bakhmut? Impressed is not the right word. Worried is more like, because I thought, like, and I made it very clearly, I thought that Ukraine should and would retreat from Bakhmut, but it's a more of a understanding that this is a hard war also for Ukraine, that it's not only about like them retreating and having a very, very the same plan all the time, that they also evaluate stuff. So I have even more respect for the armed forces, both from the heroes on the ground and for the command, because remember, like in a war, it is you, if you're in command in a war, that it's you that's sending people to literally die. You are saying that these mothers and fathers will never see their son because I'm gonna send them to die. So they needed to make the conscious decision to just let people, for example, die in Bakhmut more, because it's also costing Ukraine a lot of troops. So it's very, very revealing for me that this war is a lot tougher for Ukraine as well. Not that it was easy, but it was a reminder. We see. My Ukrainian house guests don't like the Danish food. What Danish food does your Ukrainian girlfriend like? Some of the Christmas food is very nice. Fläskesteg was pretty good. The tatlera was also very, very nicely accepted with my girlfriend. Well, wife. And sandwiches, really nice. All the different, like especially chicken bacon, super nice. Hot dogs, amazing. Like, making hot dogs are super good. Yeah, stuff like that. Ama Georgie, in troll. Yeah, okay. Yes. Is it true that many recent missiles flew largely across Moldovan airspace? I've heard that it's been reported, but I haven't heard the official statement from Moldova. So, should we buy out Wagner and turn them on Russia or put them in prison? I don't think it's possible. I think it's a little bit silly. Marlene Hora, synthetic opioids developed for use as an aerosolizable encapsulase agent and vodka. Yes. Mr. Norton, 2020. Ukraine matters. How long did Rasputitsa ends? About the mid-May, probably. If we're lucky, end of April. Bo A. What do you think about foreign volunteering supporting Ukraine being published with names and photos on Telegram and Russian websites? I mean, okay, good job. I mean, I would love to be published on the Russian websites. Target me, please. Put me in sanctions list. It's like, I want to get on the Russians' bad side. I want to do enough so it matters. TV, which Eastern country are you from? Latvia. Kieran Munari, hi Georgie. Did you get my email regarding my speculations on what Ukraine might be planning in Bakhmut? Yes, but I still haven't read it. I've seen the mail. It's been some kind of theory. I haven't had the time to read it. So I'm sorry. I've been really busy. I'm gonna read it and respond. Kalandan, what do you think will happen to the few people in Donetsk who are still proclaiming in DPR and PR after Ukraine wins? Should they be deported to Russia? If they're citizens of Russia, yes, potentially. If they're citizens of Ukraine, then they're going to be prosecuted for collaboration. If proven guilty, otherwise they will be just left, well, to live, like, because they're Ukrainian citizens. And if there is like no crimes that they've been participating in, so I think Ukraine is just going to do that. Jakob Strauss. Heard that second tier troops should fight in Bakhmut. Elite troops are to break the pincers. Also, not much armor is to be left in the city, but it should be used to break encirclement. I mean, yes, I don't know. It's war tactics. This is not for me. Ask reporting from Ukraine. He's the war tactics guy. I'm more over like a big picture. I can roughly explain to you where things is. I follow some of the things, but like talking about like which tank should go, that's not for me. It wasn't me. Thank you so much, Ali and Raven7. Thank you so much for making Georgie's live so nice. I wonder if you like, yeah, thank you so much. Is there a time lag? Yeah, probably. I don't know. William Parrish, does Moldova really matter? Yes. I understand the breakaway Russian oriented part of Eastern Moldova, but in the big picture, does it matter? Yes. It's people. People matter. Awesome HBT. Can you give us a quick update on Vuhledar? Are the Russians still failing miserably? Latest assaults didn't go through because the troops, like what I was just making essentially a statement on, is that troops said that they will not attack. They don't want to go. What about NAFO? What about it? NAFO is great. They did finally found a solution to the propaganda, because all of the smart heads, they were scratching their heads and trying to figure out how to fight propaganda because it was so effective. Because everyone was trying to fight propaganda with facts and whatnot. But NAFO was the only one that found an actual solution, which is just to ridicule it. Like, don't engage in conversations. Don't consider the facts that propaganda is telling you. Don't even like anything. Just ridicule, make jokes, make fun, like shitpost essentially. And it works. It works. People stop perceiving propaganda if it's delivered in a message, and then that under that message there is like shit posting and nonsense, and then people is like, oh, okay, that was complete something. I'd rather read a better news source. Mark Elcock, what do you think that Russian propagandists? Do you think that Russian propagandists will be tired? They might, but their lives are depending on it. You need to realize that. Like, so. G. Soren, will incoming Western military weapons be enough to make a big difference? Yes. Many of the more outspoken Russian propagandists own property, have wealth, and children in Western countries, yet seem unfair that they are allowed to continue this. Well, you just voiced basically what Ukraine has been saying for the last, what, 10 years? Well, it's like, maybe not 10 years, but like what, 9 years? Since 2014, basically. They've been saying, it's like, sanction the shit out of the Russian people. Yeah, for sure. Sifi, I have seen videos with phosphorus bombs, more like a rain in Ukraine. What is it and how does it work? Is it illegal? It is illegal. It's a war crime, but it's not phosphorus bombs. It's something that is called incendiary munition, which is actually, like, to an extent even worse. But this incendiary munition is something that is on Russian military. They have it delivered either by plane, like it's a plane bomb, and they have something that they put essentially in their missile systems. So it's like a missile just flying and then distributing it. And it's an incendiary munition that has been shown itself not to be too effective, to be honest. While it's a completely awful thing, like if it gets on like live skin or any kind of like weak construction, it can set it up on fire. But right now there is like so much concrete in the Ukrainian cities, so this incendiary munition is just a terror tactic. And it's just awful. It looks awful, but thankfully it hasn't been too efficient. It's mostly been used for essentially, we need to use something. Let's fire something at the Ukrainians. Yeah, let's fire this incendiary ammunition that we're having here lying around. How much control of Wagner does Mr. Wagner Dmitry Otkin himself have? Dmitry Otkin. Okay, let me Google Dmitry Otkin because maybe I'm missing something. Dmitry Utkin. Ah, this guy. Yeah, I actually didn't know his name. Sure. Wasn't he like a commander of Wagner? I'm not sure if he's in charge. Probably he is. Like, why not? But isn't he like part of the military command of Wagner? So, like, he's just like commanding on the ground. Yeah. Carmen V, do you know what was dropped on Konstantinovka? Ukraine TBC video was shocking. I haven't seen it. Is that new video? Let me Google Konstantinovka. Let's see what it was. Konstantinovka. Konstantinovka. So I see big explosion. I see big explosion. Am I missing something? Is there any aftermath? Because like the only thing I see is like people are posting videos with essentially like huge smoke going up in the air. And then it's most probably some kind of like, what is it? The air bomb. Okay, I think I need to check the Brandon's channel. Let's see. I hope it's in a community tab. No, it's not a community. Okay, I don't know. I will look for it. I will look for what you mean, but overall, it looks like it was some kind of air bomb, probably. There has been reports that there is like a new 1.5 ton air bombs. Maybe it's one of those, or maybe like a big missile hit. In the first week of invasion, I was watching Funker stream, and the comments were full of bots going, "Kiev has fallen, God help us." Jesus Christ. Yeah, that's funny. Yes. Isaac West, you should watch out for that The hydrogen monoxide. I heard it can kill people. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Lightly carbonated. Yes, thank you so much. Patrick M. Any chance a pro-Occidental government any chance a pro-Occidental government happen in Russia after defeat of Russia army in Ukraine? It's a possibility, but again, I wouldn't expect it so far. Until like I don't put any trust in Russian people or whatever. Raymond May, why is Ukraine speaking about when and where the counteroffensive will be? 2 months and South Zap. Because maybe it's not where the offensive will be. Remember they were talking about Kherson and then Kharkiv happened? Ooh. Would be a shame if something similar would happen, right? As a Cuban, I'm interested in Orlando Torres. As a Cuban, I'm interested in how Cuba's position in diplomatic support for Russia and the Latin America's position regarding the conflict are perceived in Europe. I can speak for myself, but I think that people are looking at Cuba and seeing it somewhat backwards. It's like similar as China. It's like except like Cuba doesn't have an influence. So it's like, yeah, they have their own stuff, but they're like not threatening us. So let them just have its way. Why should we care? That's kind of weird. Like I think everyone would love Cuba to be normal, but I wouldn't say that it's a big thing that is being often discussed. I don't have an opinion on that. I think Cuba has the right for its own way. I don't think that whatever Cuba is doing right now and the government they're having right now is right. I think it's causing a lot of people to lose a lot of potential that they could have had, and they have, yeah, I don't know. It's just like, don't threaten us and then just leave whatever. Live and let live. Sitting and thinking. There's a probably lithium in your favorite fizzy water. Yes. Or cocaine. Marlene Hoda. What the Russians thinks about the war? Are they still clueless? No, they support the war. They want to destroy Ukraine. Like, if you want to know what Russians think, watch like 1420 channel. Like, it's the best thing. It's like just common Russians spouting out nonsense. Like, it's like, oh, are you for peace? Oh yeah, I'm totally for peace. Do you still think that we should complete the special military operation and capture Kiev? Yes, we should. We should. Do you think us killing a lot of Ukrainians is bad? Yeah, it's terrible. Okay, do you still think that we should bomb the Ukrainian infrastructure and their civil infrastructure? Yeah, fuck those Nazis. It's not even like cluelessness. They are having like what is inside of their heads is hard to describe. And to be honest, I don't give a shit what Russians think. No one should care. What you should care is like how to protect Ukrainians because Ukraine matters, Russia doesn't. Mark Thompson, you skipped my question. Well, sorry. Now I'm reading it. Are there any Ukrainian fighting pilots, aces? They were big propaganda during World War II. I don't know. There was a Ghost of Kiev, but that's the one that I know of. There is also a couple of them that have been posting videos. They are well-known Ukrainian aces. Yeah, yeah. Some of them are. I think that the Flashback Pasha is streaming. Should we all move to his stream? Potentially. You want me to move everyone to Pasha's stream? Yeah, I've been streaming for, what is it now? Almost 2 hours, so potentially we will. Let me check if Flashback is streaming. Yeah, the Flashback is streaming. Yeah, very nice, very nice. Sure. Let me finish up the last questions, guys, and then in 5 minutes we're gonna move to the Flashback channel because I've been streaming for 2 hours. So, and remember, if your question didn't get answered after this stream appears, write it in comments, and I will address it at some point. I try to answer all of the questions that I can. Geoff Passmode, what do you think about MiG-29s being donated with NATO air combat missiles? I think I would rather have F-16s donated to Ukraine. Give us your best American accent. I don't have a best American accent. I cannot do accents for shit, sorry. Canada, Georgies, you and your wife should visit California. I will show you guys around Laguna Beach. I've trying to set out for a visit to the Americas. But I need my license. I need to get a license before I can travel to US or Canada because it's, as far as I understood, it's gonna be talking Danish. It's impossible to imitate. Ja, det kan göra. Nej, det kan jeg ikke. Min dansk er faktisk virkelig dårlig. Det er pisselort. Så Konstantin MT, that's a Russian with such an Italian accent. Oh, wow. So now I'm Italian. I'm an Italian spy. Interesting. All right. Oh my God, Georgie, you're in troll. Oh my God. Ever say dude? What's up, dude? Wow, I missed so many questions. All right. Let's stop with the questions. Let's stop with the questions. I'm gonna read the ones that I'm having. Thank you so much. Do you think that Kremlin is trying to get rid of Wagner Group? I'm not sure Wagner Group, but Prigozhin, yes. Yes. Do you think Russian oligarchs are talking to the Ukrainians on a dial low? Maybe. Please, for evidence, sing a Latvian song. I will put a Latvian song after this. It will be the song, like, because you don't want to hear me sing. Like, anything besides hearing me sing. Like, my wife loves me very, very much, but like singing, she would be like, please get me out. I will put a Latvian song after this. At America, we don't say moreover at the beginning of a sentence, only when we are writing a letter. At least I've never heard anyone say that from St. Paul. Moreover, ever say, dude? Kelendan, is holding Bakhmut going to cost Ukraine its reserves for the offensive later? No. Ukraine is not engaging reserves for the offensive in defense of Bakhmut. A lot of the reinforcements for Ukraine are coming at the expense of other parts of country being less defended. I'm not telling which, because it might be a little bit better. But I've heard and I know. I know some. Don Baca, withdrawing is a bad move tactically. I've been telling people for weeks that they've come early brigades. Western Bakhmut is ill defensible. The Russian can... Yeah, potentially. I'm not here to question the armed forces of Ukraine tactics. Money. Some rumors that 20,000 Ukrainian troops in Bakhmut area are being moved to help Bakhmut. True. I've heard that there is like some fighting forces are being prepared. I'm not sure if they've been engaged or they're already engaged. Tartleta. Oh my God, I'm so behind. Radu Nedisan. If Russia says it withdraws everything, it lift restrictions. Yes. Latvia. Wow, have guessed. Never would have guessed. How are you? Well, welcome. Marlene Hoda, do you think other countries should be involved in the fighting of the war? I think we should have piled up on Russia long ago. Tobes B. What's your take on the alleged fallout between Russia's Myrdii, Wagner, and Kadyrov's propaganda? A real thing? What role do you think other the PMC? Like the Russian MOD got really pissed at Prigozhin. The rest is probably Ken Router, Ukraine doesn't retreat from Bakhmut because they don't the same destruction happen to surrounding cities. One of the reasons potentially. How are you and your wife coping? I can't even imagine that you're feeling. Well, I'm just me. Thanks for that. My wife is helping a lot of like refugees here, and she's also helping some of the Ukrainians. At the start of the war, she went to help people at the Poland border, so she was doing quite well. Now she's very happy that what I'm doing and that I'm supporting, and obviously she's feeling it rough. But we're trying to get it. Should pay Ali in rubles. Yes. Well, maybe soon it's going to be extremely rare currency. Yardbird 68. When Ukraine wins, all those Russian propagandists will scatter like a cockroach to escape justice. Yes, absolutely. They will also say that they are totally against Russia, but not against Putin. Kelendan, you can't teach stupid. Can you reason with crazy? Yeah, fair. Remco Asselsberg. Is Russian language relevant after this war? Because Russia, after this war with Muscovy Empire, Peter the Great. Yeah, Putin ruined all of the legacy of the Great Russia. So when Russia will lose this war, there's a big non-zero chance that Russian influence, the soft power, the culture will cease to exist. Yes. QR, one of our college teachers once told us that when he spoke during Russian, his stay in USSR, told him that he must be is Pribaltica. Yeah, because Russians call the Baltic states as Pribaltica. It's atrocious. It's the same saying as the Ukraine. It's awful. A lot of people in Ukraine used to do it the same, but they are now relearning that. I've noticed that change in the media in Ukraine. That was pretty funny. Uh, all right. Should the CIA buy out Wagner and turn it out to Russia? Yeah, maybe. Sifi, how about making a video from Roman frontline sniper in Bakhmut and the face of Voice of Ukraine? Potentially, I will. I need to reach out to him. Kieran Mooney, hey Georgie, another question. How significant do you think Czechia's new president will be for support for Ukraine? I think he should advocate more for people in Kralowitz to be more active, to learn Czech. Mark Garcia, please remind people that it helps to write their elected officials to support Ukraine. Yes, Mark, thank you so much. If you want to support Ukraine, but you don't have any resources to spare, or like you've been donating more than enough already, thank you so much, first and foremost. And secondly, you can always write your nearest politician. So if you can write to your elected official and ask him, is like, please support more Ukraine, that is how democracy works. It starts by a chain of people asking their local representative, so they start moving their butts and then ask someone higher up, and this is how democracy works. So we are now here watching, and how many are of us here? Oh my god, I lost it completely. So we are here 1,624 people. So please, please, please take your time, write an email this week and send it to your official. It can really be what's going to tip the balance. Or worst case scenario, it's not going to be taking a lot from you. All right. Do you know the rates of your Ukrainian wounded? Is it still 95%? I mean, 1 of 15 wounded. Praying for all Ukrainian soldiers. Yes, the wounded ratios are extremely high for Ukraine. A lot more Ukrainians are wounded than dead, like really, really a lot. Because in Ukraine, they have a lot better medicine, for example, than the Russians. They have a lot of, because the Western powers were very generous to donate a lot of medical supplies. So that is very nice. Okay, perfect. I think I've catched up. No, I didn't. Okay. Last 5 questions or 6. Here's Jan Fleming, James Bond advice how to treat Russia. The way to catch Russian is to make them look foolish, embarrass them, laugh at them. They can't stand it. Nice. So you're a spy called Troubadour. Are you considering moving to Ukraine after the war? No, I think I will visit, but Denmark is definitely my country of choice. Just it's just like for how I feel. Like I really feel with the Danish people. It's like in line. As much as I love Ukraine, it's not the country that I feel that I'm in line with on a many levels. I have a lot of problems with Ukraine society, Ukraine politics, a lot of problems with Ukraine, but it does not matter when it comes to the aggressive war. Like it covers everything. Ukraine can be helped, and we should be advising and helping and investing in Ukraine to change it for the better. But I still have a lot of problems with Ukraine, despite whatever it seems that I'm a fanboy. Can you envisage mass surrender and mutiny from Russian troops? Yes. After the big Ukraine offensive, Leclerc's Challengers and Leopards. Yes, it's potentially possible. All right. Reach out to Voice of Ukraine. Yes, I will. How does Ukraine media call the Baltics now if not Pribaltica? Krainy Balti. Cheers, Georgie. Thank you for another great stream. Perfect. Yes. Amazing stream, guys. Thank you so much. All the 1,600 of you that decided to stay up with me. I really appreciate it. Love you all. My health is perfect, guys. I'm living in Denmark. I'm in total safety. I have some permanent conditions with medical, but that's like just a thing. There's nothing to worry about. I love you all. Please join the Flashback channel stream. Let's go raid. Please join their stream and write that you are from here. Let's make them happy. See what they're doing, and we will meet with you guys next time. Slava Ukraini. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.